Good day, everyone. I am Gerald Lebron with Mom Jelica Liego. We are tasked to discuss B.F. Skinner's operant conditioning. What is operant conditioning and how does it work? This is known as instrumental conditioning. It is a method of learning normally attributed to Boris Frederick Skinner, or simply known as B.F. Skinner, where the consequences of a response determine the probability of it being repeated. Through operant conditioning, behavior which is reinforced or rewarded will likely be repeated, and behavior which is punished will occur less frequently. He believed that the best way to understand behavior is to look at the causes of an action and its consequences. Skinner is regarded as the father of operant conditioning, but his work was based on Thorndike's law of effect. According to this principle, behavior that is followed by pleasant consequences is likely to be repeated, and behavior followed by unpleasant consequences is less likely to be repeated. Skinner studied operant conditioning by conducting experiments using animals which he placed in a Skinner box, which was similar to Thorndike's puzzle box. This is an illustration of a Skinner box. A Skinner box is also known as an operant conditioning chamber. It is a device which is used to objectively record an animal's behavior in a compressed time frame. An animal can be rewarded or punished for engaging in certain behaviors, such as lever pressing for rats or key pecking for pigeons. Skinner identified three types of responses or operant that can follow behavior, and these are neutral operants, reinforcers, and the punishers. Neutral operants are responses from the environment that neither increases nor decreases the probability of a behavior being repeated. Reinforcers are responses from the environment that increase the probability of a behavior being repeated. Reinforcers can be either positive or negative. Punishers are responses from the environment that decrease the likelihood of a behavior being repeated. We all know that punishment weakens behavior. For example, if when you were younger, you tried smoking at school, and the chief consequence was that you got in with the crowd you always wanted to hang out with, you would have been positively reinforced or rewarded, and as a result, you would be likely to repeat that behavior. If, however, the main consequence was that you were caught, caned, suspended from school, and your parents became involved, you would most certainly have been punished, and you would consequently be much less likely to smoke now. Let's talk about positive reinforcement. It is a response or behavior which is strengthened by rewards, leading to the repetition of desired behaviors. The reward is a reinforcing stimulus. While in negative reinforcement, it is the termination of an unpleasant state following a response. This is known as negative reinforcement because it is the removal of an adverse stimulus which is rewarding to the animal or person. Negative reinforcement strengthens behavior because it stops or removes an unpleasant experience. If we wanted to have that desired behavior, then we will use a positive reinforcement. If we wanted to remove or stop unpleasant behavior, then we will use the negative reinforcement. For punishment, punishment is defined as the opposite of reinforcement since it is designed to weaken or eliminate a response rather than increase it. It is an aversive event that decreases the behavior that it follows. Like reinforcement, punishment can work either by directly applying on unpleasant stimulus like a shock after a response or by removing a potentially rewarding stimulus, for instance, deducting someone's pocket money to punish undesirable behavior. But there are many problems with using punishment, such as punished behavior is not forgotten, it's suppressed. Behavior returns when punishment is no longer present. And the other is, it causes increased aggression, which shows that aggression is a way to cope with problems. It also creates fear that can generalize to undesirable behaviors, like, for example, fear of school, because they are always being punished in school. Another is, it does not necessarily guide toward desirable behavior or the desired behavior, because reinforcement tells you what to do. Punishment only tells you what not to do. Here are the schedule of reinforcement. Imagine a rat in a Skinner box. In operant conditioning, if no food pellet is delivered immediately after the lever is pressed, then after several attempts, the rat stops pressing the lever. How long would someone continue to go to work if their employer stopped paying them? The behavior here has been extinguished. In scheduled reinforcement, we have the response rate and the extinction rate. The response rate, for example, is the rate at which the rat pressed the lever, how hard the rat worked. While the extinction rate, it is the rate at which lever pressing dies out, how soon the rat gave up. Here are 5 schedules of reinforcement. First is the continuous reinforcement. Here, an animal or human is positively reinforced every time a specific behavior occurs. Example, every time a lever is pressed, a pellet is delivered, and then food delivery is shut off. Here, the response rate is slow, and the extinction rate is fast. Next, fixed ratio reinforcement. Behavior is reinforced only after the behavior occurs a specified number of times. Example, one reinforcement is given after every so many correct responses. Example, after every 5th responses. For example, a child receives a star for every 5 words spelled correctly. The response rate is fast. and the extinction rate is medium. Next is the fixed interval reinforcement. One reinforcement is given after a fixed time interval, providing at least one correct response has been made. An example is being paid by the hour. Another example would be every 15 minutes, half hour, or an hour, or etc. A pellet is delivered, providing at least one lever press has been made. Then, food delivery is shut off. The response rate here is medium and the extinction rate is medium. Next is the variable ratio reinforcement. Here, behavior is reinforced after an unpredictable number of items. For example, gambling or fishing. Response rate is fast and extinction rate is slow. Why? It is very hard to extinguish because of unpredictability. And the last one is variable interval reinforcement. Providing one correct response has been made, reinforcement is given after an unpredictable amount of time has passed. Example, on every 5 minutes average. An example is a self-employed person being paid at unpredictable times. So here, the response rate is fast and the extinction rate is slow. So, what are the educational applications of this operant conditioning? In the conventional learning situation, operant conditioning applies largely to issues of class and student management rather than to learning content. It is very relevant to shaping skill performance. A simple way to shape behavior is to provide feedback on learner performance. Example, compliments, approval, encouragement, and affirmation. A variable ratio, which is one of the schedule that we tackled a while ago, produces the highest response rate for students learning a new task, whereby initially reinforcement, like praise, occurs at frequent intervals, and as the performance improves, reinforcement occurs less frequently, until eventually only exceptional outcomes are reinforced. For example, if a teacher wanted to encourage students to answer questions in class, they should praise them for every attempt, regardless of whether their answer is correct. Gradually, the teacher will only praise the students when their answer is correct, and over time, only exceptional answers will be praised. In the case of unwanted behaviors, such as tardiness and dominating class discussion, can be extinguished through being ignored by teacher, rather than being reinforced by having attention drawn to them. This is not an easy task, as the teacher may appear insincere if he or she thinks too much about the way to behave. Knowledge of success is also important as it motivates future learning. However, it is important to vary the type of reinforcement given so that the behavior is maintained. In conclusion, the idea of operant conditioning is very useful in education, especially in developing a positive behavior to the learners. Because if learners have that positive behavior, then learning would be that easy and successful too. This is the summarized diagram in operant conditioning. With the use of the operant conditioning, positive behavior is strengthened, while on its absence is the extinction or the weakening of the positive behaviors also.